going on, you guys? Paul here with Paul's Performance, and welcome back to the channel. What we got going on right here is, as you guys can see, we have single cab Shorty Power Stroke up on the lift. You may be wondering, is he putting a new transmission in it? Absolutely not. This one only slips in second gear. We got to get at least 2 gears before we get that done. What we're actually doing, I'm lowering the truck back down. Originally, when I had this truck, I lowered the rear. I ended up taking out a leaf when I was building this truck, and I had to put a leveling kit in the front because, as you know, two-wheel drives do a nosedive. So I wanted the truck to be level, and also I had a set of 24 by 12 American Forces on this truck, so they were rubbing very, very, very badly. So I needed to have a leveling kit. Now that I'm back on these beautiful platinum stocks here, I don't really need the height, and to be honest, I prefer the lowered look. I've already taken out the leveling kit in the front, and it is now back to stock suspension in the front. Now that I've done that, the rear is higher by about 2 inches. So we're gonna decided to go with these adjustable drop shackles. I found this nice set online, it's got grease fitting, and it's adjustable for a 2 or a 1 inch drop. Probably just gonna do the 1 inch drop, that way it gives it a slight incline, but nothing, too noticeable. And I definitely don't want to have a squat because, I like that. So anyways, we're gonna get these drop shackles on. Then we're gonna see what the truck looks like, and maybe I can get this truck aligned for the 57th time, and it might actually drive straight, which is another reason I wanted to lower it back down, because any of you guys that have two-wheel drives or board with the twin I-beam series of front suspension, you know how hard it is to get these trucks aligned right. That front suspension has so much adjustment in it, and I can tell you with the leveling kit that I had in this truck, it was impossible to get the steering straight because it was just not enough adjustment. No matter what kind of caster bushing you got before it got to the perfect alignment, it was going to end up hitting metal to metal, and I didn't want to grind down on any of my front end suspension parts. So I was like, you know what, let's just go back stock, and I like the lowered look anyway. So let's get a look under here and see what we're gonna have to do to put these drop shackles in. This is my first time ever doing this on a Super Duty, so let's see what happens. As you can see, there's our stock shackle. This is the OEM shackle, and this is my socket that I have on there. But anyways, we're gonna have to remove this bolt right here, and the same way with that bolt. You can't do this without having some sort of support because your axle is going to want to fall. So I have my jack stands here. Yes, I'm on a lift. I know this is nicer. Some of you guys will be doing this on the ground. You have to do that with your jack and a normal jack stand, but you're going to have to support this leaf spring so that you can get this out, because like I said, the axle is going to want to, go separate from the frame rail. So you definitely got to be careful, and we're going to take this, and this will sit right in there like so. Basically what's going to happen is you see this shackle's longer than the stock one. That's going to put our leaf spring further up towards the bed, which will in turn lower your rear. So we're going to get that out and see about getting this one in there. We're about to do the dangerous part, which is removing the bolt from the actual leaf spring. First things first, you obviously want to have the truck supported. This one is on the lift, and my lifting point is not on my leaf spring. It is on the frame rail. So the truck is supported by itself. That means there's nothing, there's no weight on the side of this leaf spring. Number two, you want to have your axle supported, because once you take this leaf spring off, this end, you still have that end connected, but this end will be connected. So if you don't have any support here, most likely it's going to have force to come down on this end. So you don't have to put a lot, just put something that kind of holds it where it's drooping. If you put a lot of force up, then you're going to put force on this bolt. So if you look up in here, Ford made sure that they put the bolt in on the inside. So we're going to have to take this one out first, and then lift the leaf spring up, and then put the bolt out above the frame, because it's going to hit the frame rail to get it out. I got the bolt almost all the way out, and as you can see, it's very loose. If it wasn't loose and it was very tight, like it had a lot of spring tension, then that's what you don't want, because if you pull it out when it's tight, good luck with that. Probably got tension on it, and I'm pretty sure the leaf spring's going to win every time. Don't do that. Make sure you have some looseness to it and everything is supported before you try to pull this out, because like I said, this is a huge spring, and if it's tight, it's very dangerous to be messing with it. So if you're having to beat this bolt out and this is all tight, something's wrong. Calm down and make sure you get everything loose. So I'm going to get this out, and then we'll come right back. We got the old leaf spring mount out. We have ran into our first problem, so I figured what's gonna happen. So as you can see, our new drop is hitting the bottom of the bed. Luckily, I was only going to use these bottom holes for the 1-inch drop and not the 2-inch, because it would be hitting my bed and there would be no way to really get it unless I did some fabrication work. I'm pretty sure they make these where they drop down further. I'm not doing that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut off these upper tabs because I don't need them. And all I'm going to be using is these anyways, so we'll just cut those off and they should work perfectly. Alright guys, one quick tip. So you can see I sawed this off because it was hitting my bed. If you look right here, you can still see the bottom of the U from the bolt above. Make sure when you cut this off, you cut it as close, if not right on the line from the hole above it. You don't want to cut it down real close to your hole you're going to use, because you want to keep your strength in your metal. Cut it as close to the hole above as possible. That way you keep the strength of this metal when your bolt goes on there. Just a tip. We got this one side installed. I got to go tighten the bolts. In order to get the bracket to line up, you got to set it on the ground. That way the axle will push it up so that you can get it lined up. You could do it on the lift if you had 2 jack stands, but my second jack stand was actually keeping the front stable, so I couldn't do that, so I just set it back on the ground. This is about how low it's going to be. I know it's not slammed, nothing crazy. You know, this isn't the Ricer truck, but it is a lot lower. It had, I think it was like a 7-inch gap in the rear before, and now it should be like 5 to 6 inches of gap right here. The front is 5, so it's already lower. Once I get the truck, the suspension settled back down. My traction bars are pretty tight right now. I need to adjust those, so they're probably keeping a little bit of tension. But once I get those off and I get the truck aligned, I'll make another video. That way you guys can see it out in the wild and see how the setup looks. And I can go over, you know, the full setup on the truck for those of you guys who have a truck like this and you want to know what you got to do to get this same setup. So I won't be able to get that. It's probably going to be another week or so before I can even get it aligned, but I'm going to raise it up and show you guys what it looks like on the truck, because I did have to cut them. Here's the new bracket. Come with new bolts. It also has a grease fitting for this bottom half, which I thought was really nice. As you can see, we have very little gap from the bed. Here's where I actually cut the top pieces off. You wouldn't have been able to get that 2-inch drop, not with stock setup here, so I had to cut that off, but now it's perfect. This gap right here is pretty close, but it's not touching. I mean, it's not 1/8 of an inch. I would say a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch. From y'all's angle, you might not see that much gap, but from down here, it's probably a little bit less than 1/4 inch. This right here is actually resting on the bracket. Once you set the truck down and the weight goes on it, this spring goes upward and it's no longer touching. You really got to make sure you look at this stuff with it on the ground, because when stuff goes up in the air, it tends to hit. So make sure you look at that on the ground so you don't get too worried about it while you're working on it in the air. But it doesn't touch at all, so it actually worked out pretty good. Make sure you put grease on all your parts before you put it in. I like to put grease on my bolts, that way I don't get any squeaks. And like I said, this bottom one has a grease fitting on it, so that's even better. It actually seemed to work out pretty good, other than me having to cut it. For those of you guys who want a 2-inch drop shackle, don't buy it because you're not going to get it. But for the 1-inch lower, you can get that. So all right guys, so that's it for this video. We got this one side on. I'm gonna throw the other side on, and then like I said, hopefully in about a week or so I can get the front end aligned and we can make an update video and I can show you guys what it looks like fully aligned and outside in the wild. I would say we could do some burnouts, but unfortunately the transmission called and said that it was not going to attend that. We're not going to get any of those videos. At least I can show you more out in the open rather than on the lift. That way you guys can see the new setup. If you have any questions, hopefully I can answer those. But anyways, appreciate you guys watching. As always, please like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.